Welcome back to episode 43 of Let's Play Modded Minecraft with me, Greatester. And continuing this episode using Thorncraft, I think. Well, last episode we obviously got our energized node working, all nicely styled, all packed away. And we obviously have our recharging station for our wand now, which is all fairly simple uses of the energized node. But we can go further. There are more uses to this thing than just recharging our wand. It's often used as a boost for various kinds of system. And to deal with the first system that we're going to cover in this episode, we're going to cover crystallizing Essentia. So we obviously have the V that we can cook up in here and put in these jars. I've upgraded a few of them to void jars now, so I don't have to worry about getting the quantities exact. But we can go further than this. We can, instead of pouring random stuff into our alchemical furnaces, we can put very specific items to carefully control just how much stuff we want in these. Now that might not seem useful. After all, we're using void jars. Why do we need specific quantities? Well, if we're going to automate this thing, and we are, we're going to want a system whereby we can, much like applied logistics, we can say, here's a certain number of items, and that forms part of the recipe. And in this case, for infusion, that means converting those items back into V and into jars available near the altar. But you end up with lots of spare and all kinds of other issues. So crystallizing Essentia really comes in to provide an exact quantity for burning in here. It also allows for alchemy stuff. So when you would normally put stuff into your crucible, you remember it has all of that taint, that flux that comes out of this, the gas and the liquid kind. Mainly because you're not able to, on many recipes, you're not able to use up all of that, those ingredients all in the right quantities. You end up with leftover quantities, they convert into primal kinds, and eventually they leak into the environment if you don't trigger them yourself, and you end up with this stuff all over the place. Furthermore, later in Thorncraft there are more advanced versions of that upstairs that gets rid of it, but this is excuse me, this is a complementary system to all of these. So let's get started, and I'm going to try and keep these episodes fairly, concise and to the point. So where do we need to go? Let's look into the Thaumonomicon and into, I think it's the alchemy section. Yeah, it is. So down here, we've got our existing alembics, we've got the Essentia tubes. Here we have essential crystallization, we're going to come back to that one, and then there's a couple more advanced Essentia tubes and alchemy, centrifuge, and this is the advanced automated alchemy. We're not going to be there just yet. We're going to start with essential crystallization. And there's a lot of text here, but it's basically saying, hey, I'm going to output items, which are, solid block versions of the V. So in order to do that, we're going to need to make a few things. Well, first thing is an alchemical construct. We've made those before. Yep, there it is. So a couple of V filters, great wood planks, some Essentia tubes, and Essentia valves. So let's quickly do that one now that we've got a really good auto recharging system here for that. So do I remember the recipe? Probably not, but let's give it a try. That's the directional one. Oh. Two of you. And a furnace? Is it going to be a furnace? Never remember these things while I'm actually looking at them. Oh, just planks. Okay. Planks. There we go. So we've got an alchemical construct. So that can go in the middle. And what was the rest of the recipe? A dispenser, a couple of balance shards, some more planks, and an Essentia tube. Okay, so dispenser, a couple of balance shards. Tubes, again, my memory. No. Almost right. And planks. There we go. Essentia crystallizer. Now what does that do? What does that do exactly? If I were to attach this to, let's say, some of these. Let's, for the moment, just put them like here. And drop this on top and get this right in the first place. Drop this on top. Looks somewhat like a lantern. It isn't. If I just drop a shard in here, it's going to cook up as normal. You can connect these crystallizers to any V network. You'll see it's coming all the way out here. Now, over time, this is going to convert this into a V crystallized essence of that particular kind. If you've used, remember mana beans last season? Now they're much harder to actually grow. Otherwise, we'd be using those kind of things for this sort of stuff. This is the modern alternative to the mana beans. So you can have this system here, and it will gradually turn this into items, but it takes a long while. Don't want to do that. Takes far too long. Alchemical furnace. I'm going to need to make another one of those, aren't I? Yeah, do I have the ingredients? Oh no, I have one. Okay. That will do, and let's say a few alembics and some shards. In fact, let's not use green because I want to demonstrate green separately. Okay, so if I come over here, and you'll see I've got a V relay set up here. It's coming off this thing, and you'll see why shortly, or hopefully you'll see why shortly. I'm going to need a chest. Or maybe not. Maybe not. At least not initially. So let's... Yeah. Interesting. Not really sure how much space I'm going to need to start off with, so let me just dig this out, and let's put this in place here. And a couple of alembics. Let's say 3. Some Essentia tubes, and then we're going to put in our crystallizer. What I remember to attach it to the right place. Now, what should happen here is this crystallizer, like many other pieces of equipment in Thorncraft, can get bonuses from energized nodes. In particular, green, the Terra kind of V. I'm just wanting to see this without actually adjusting this relay, just to make sure that it's only green. I just want to see whether it'll automatically convert. So let's just try that thing again. Let's try dropping in 16 air shards and some coal. Yeah, there it goes. It turns green, and it's already started kicking these things out. Remember how slow it was previously? Well, just look at this now. And now each one of these is giving me exactly one of the element that I'm looking for. So I can just stand here and do this. It's not very interesting, nor is it very useful. So what we can do, and we can do this simply, is just put a chest in the way, and that's why I was... Oh, is that going to start spitting out items? Probably is. Okay, let me go and get a chest while that's going. Because one of the things that crystallizers can do is just output into a nearby inventory, and I think it's on top, but we're about to find out. In fact, do I have any ender chests? That would be interesting. Yeah, and then something that's red. Red. Floral red powder. Will that work? Yeah, that's the input chest. Let's go and see if this still survives. Over here. It's probably outputting... Oh yeah, there's crazy amounts of items going. So, this is a bit ugly. I can obviously clean it up later, but if I put a chest here, it should start outputting them into the chest. Yeah, there it goes. You see them getting injected. And we have nothing more to do with it. Now, there are a few ways of doing this. I could pipe in items into that bottom one of a certain kind, and just have them automatically converted across into the crystallized Essentia. And usually the setup is that we just set multiple of those up. I'm not sure I'm going to do that or not yet. But that's one of the quick ways to do it. So just bear in mind if you're watching this yourself. Other ways to do it a little bit more advanced than that. So what we could do is we could take our AE system and set up a recipe, a manual recipe to say, pour this thing, whatever this thing might be, input these items into this furnace, which get dropped into here. Then we take those, they get dropped into here and get burned back in exactly the quantities that we want, and then those can be put into the infusion altar along with, you know, the items that are around there. That's one way to do things. I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to do things yet, but that's one idea. But this immediately allows me to access through my AE system, and I really need to put an extension of the AE system down here. My wireless access is broken, I don't know why, but now if I look at this, oops, crystal, there we go, crystallizes has essence even. So yeah, we have those available and able to use at any time. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to cover in this episode is a little bit more about this, or rather how stuff gets from these alembics into these jars. There's a number of different kinds of pipe that you can use, and I'll just cover those briefly. So if I just go across here with a normal Essentia tubes, yes, I know I'm missing them, that's okay. If I put one of these in here, each of these, bear with me a second while I do that, and then if I just wipe out these center ones, like this. In fact, let me leave that one. So if I right click on this block, you'll see it says directional and Essentia tube at the top. And if I go into the Thermonomicon, it's down in here. There's advanced types, of which directional is one. That's the directional one. There's restricted, and the advanced type, which is, you can label it like you can label jars. And the way it works is like piping systems. You see that blue section. Hopefully you can see it on the video. Whichever that direction is pointing to, in this case it's pointing up, but if I set it to here, it's saying whichever direction this is pointing to is the direction it's going to accept suction from. And remember that the jars have the suction. So if you want it to open into a jar, that's the way you would do it. I'll shut this off. And then if I poured Petitio, or, you know, the entropy shard into here, it would exit into this one. And similarly, you could control these like valves. If you set all of these ones like this, you can literally flick these on and on to off and on to control which jar things go into. Because remember, these pipes will only output one type of Essentia at a time. So that's a very manual way of doing it. But it still is a little bit better than carting all the jars back and forward from one of these things. There are better ways to do it still, and we're going to have to cover those as well. But they're going to require prerequisites. One of them was this crystallized Essentia. The other one I wanted to cover was in here, alchemical centrifuge. Inside here, the centrifuge I don't really care for, but you can do that. It breaks things down, basically. It breaks Essentia down into the primal types. Is the buffer, and this is the way we're going to do things. So let me set a few things up, and we'll come back and look at the buffer. So yeah, I had to leave for a second because I forgot to actually research the other two parts of this. If we look on the Artifice tab, over here on the left-hand side, I thought I'd already researched the Infernal Furnace. It's not the furnace I want because that's got the Forbidden Knowledge in it, which I really don't like taking, but may have to. It was the Arcane Bellows that I actually needed. So we're going to need one bellows, but we're going to need one set of bellows, I should say. But we're going to need a few buffers as well. So let's have a look, see what we need for the bellows. Should be straightforward. It's going to be some planks. There's leather from up here, I suspect. Do we have any leather? Yeah, I'm only going to need one set, but hey, why not? Do I have everything I need for the buffers? Files and valves. Do I have any files? I'm going to need some of those, so let's grab those, and valves I have some of, and I have some files. Good. All right, so let's see. Let's make the bellows first, shall we? Here we are. And have I forgotten the wood? I have. Put the grey wood back somewhere. I thought I had some planks of that. Where are you gone? Oh, I really need to put some A system down here. I'll move this to the void world either way. Oh no, not all the skeleton skulls. No. What was I looking for? Great wood. Oh, let's get some planks. That's fine. Yeah, I don't want to move all these skeleton skulls. I've shown you them before, but they are piling up. This is my stability system. If you haven't seen previous episodes, yeah, it's cool. I like it. Don't complain. I'm not OCD about that at all. I'll come back down here. Planks. There we go. I'll just make two. Why not? They're useful for a few things, actually. You can actually use them on the side of these. You can, if you attach them, basically it speeds up the processing of items. It doesn't actually make the distribution of this V up into the Alembics any faster, but yeah, you can make it process items faster, so fill up that gauge faster. There we go. So yes, we've got some bellows, and let me just drop some of this other stuff in here I don't need for now. Yep. So we want the files, don't we, for the other recipe? Where's the recipe? Yeah, straightforward. Files. Sure, that was the recipe. I'm terrible today. Oh, that's an advanced version, restricted. Okay, which is just some stone. Okay, so I just need 5 stone ones. Fine. And there we go. Around we go again. There we go. Buffers. Now, buffers, I don't know if you remember, but in the previous series I've had, I think it's even the previous Direwolf series, it was prior to Thaumcraft 4 anyway, you used to have a very easy system. What you used to be able to do is just connect all the jars up with those. No fuss, just connect all the jars, and that was it. Which made it actually a really simple system. And then we got the complication of the current Thaumcraft 4. So we're just going to actually just break all of this stuff, actually. And see what we can do with the buffers. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. I'm going to give full credit to a guy called Rox Flight on Reddit. That's ROCS Flight. And he's pointing out that discovery someone else was doing, so, you know, there's a whole chain of people working on these things. But the way that we're going to do things is, first of all, that the bellows and the buffers together will pull stuff out of an alembic. The buffer holds up to 8 of Essentia, but it can hold multiple types, and that's the important thing, I think. Because remember, that these tubes by default can only hold 1 type, but the buffer can hold multiple. So let's just, for argument's sake, set it up here for now. That's a terrible choice because of the light there. And on top of that, I'm going to put a buffer. Now, What the buffer does in this particular case is it adds suction to this. So normally this will be terrible at pulling stuff, but in our case we actually don't mind that at all. Oh god, terrible with a mouse. There we go. So it's going to pull it up into here, and then we've got this down here. Now we could just clean them up. Let's just start first by putting a few of these in. Hopefully then you'll get the idea. And I need to make more of them, but I won't do it for now. Let me just set these up with, is it the wither wand? Yeah, you want the red on this side. This basically chokes the fusion, the suction, so that we don't get problems. And okay, there's a simple and a more extensive way of doing this. Let's go with a simple one first. Yeah, it's going to complain until I get rid of those. Okay, simple version. So if I put in, let me actually get rid of you for a second. Grab you, and get rid of you. I want to put in the, yeah, there they are, the vitreous and the precantatio. So now if let me just put these back over here. So if I burn up an air shard now in here, hopefully what we should see is it all being pulled into these jars automatically. They're void jars, so you know it'll just look like it's disappearing. So let's put 8 in here and see what happens. It's definitely being distributed. Getting no leaks, and you just saw some actually passing through there. It's actually going directly into the jars now. Now, if you've seen other people do automation of this before these became available, there's all kinds of ways to do this with golems and with, well, mainly golems and computercraft. In the last series, I used DW20's computer program to do this all by computer, and golems who drop stuff into here. So that's even still an option for dropping stuff in here. Instead of dropping the mana bean stuff in, they can drop in the Crystallized Essentia. But for the system to fill the jars, this now is effectively automatic. Now I only have void jars here. Rockslide does actually add an extra section to this just by doing something like, well, basically digging into the wall. Yeah, shall I show that? Should be able to. If we just get rid of this for a second. I may need another. We'll see. I may be out of the things I need. No, it'll be alright. So if I go and grab this jar, where are you? There you are. And put it, say, here. What's going to happen is, by default, it's going to drop into this jar, which is exactly what you're seeing now. If that jar's full, it's going to go into the void jar, which is exactly what we want. You see here it's pulling out of the void jar because that has more suction. As soon as this is full, though, it has no place to go except for the void jar. Once the void jar fills up, as you can see, it's got 10 in it now. As soon as that fills up, then it's just going to the void. So with this system, you end up with 128 of everything near the actual infusion altar. And you can bring out this top level out one more, so you end up, in fact, if I can put that directly on the, it might even go directly on the buffer. Doesn't matter anyway, it looks pretty fine, and that could be what I'll be doing. I haven't decided quite yet on the layout, but that's a good idea. These two things are definitely steps that people may have difficulty with, particularly this one, and also the Crystallized Essentia section. So I'll be expanding on those in future episodes and proceeding with as much automation as I can get into here, particularly as we get higher up in this magic tree. it becomes more and more dangerous, more and more laborious, and you want to have a good automation system running before you get there. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I've tried to keep them short, up to 20-25 minutes. I used to go on for like 45 minutes, and yeah, people seem to like the shorter format. So thank you for watching. If you'd like to like and share, subscribe as usual, feel free to, or leave a comment, particularly if you want to ask me any questions or any suggestions about upcoming episodes. For now, that's me signing off. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.